So we've created private Gen AI models to store customer IP and information in a very secure manner with an audit trail. So I think that was the first step. The next step was, okay, how do we optimize these private Gen AI models and what type of hardware we need? Because we're building our own.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here for a special interview with Gavin Whyte, the CEO and founder of Brew AI. Today, we're going to be diving into the vision behind Brew AI, a company at the forefront of building secure, private, large language models for enterprise. We're going to be discussing Gavin's journey from design and mathematics to Deloitte's chief scientist, and now he's an entrepreneur and he has a penchant for longevity as well. He's been reshaping this industry and how it thinks about data, privacy, and artificial intelligence. And this interview is brought to you all by KCC Capital Partners. Welcome, Mr. White. Great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Michael, and thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, I've been really excited. The people at KCC have been talking about you a lot. You seem like a really interesting gentleman. You had a fascinating path into AI, starting in design and fashion, transitioning through mathematics, and ultimately building enterprise-grade AI systems. So you have a rather unique lens on the space. Can you tell us more about your perspective?
Yes. So as you mentioned, I had a long career in AI, starting off with the design that comes from family history and tradition, coming from that entire fashion industry, being sent to university and sort of looked at which of the courses should I take. And I decided to try computer science and mathematics. Didn't realize I loved it a lot. And then took a really interesting passion in evolving it from a software statistical point of view perspective and then grew into predictive analytics all the way into generative AI today.
Yeah, the most interesting people I've met usually have multiple sections of their life like that, and each one helps color the next one and give them unique perspectives that other people don't have. And also, when I talked to you before, you mentioned you design your own suits, which I find really interesting. But yeah, you did so before this, you held high impact roles in global consulting across. Yeah. So
Mhm.
you've been through all these environments. How did they inform you on the kind of company you really wanted to build?
Very good question, Michael. Going through my experience, working in large banks, and engineering core banking systems, started to develop my perspective, and then rolling in AI into banking systems. One of the key features in Australia, I built the largest AI team for the largest bank in Australia called the Commonwealth Bank. And that grew to quite a massive undertaking. And then moving on to becoming head of data science for Tabcorp Gaming Australia. Understanding how betting and gaming and fraud analysis work changed my entire perspective of how predictive analytics should be applied. And after doing that for a period of time, I moved on to becoming director of data science at KPMG, where I really looked at, all my previous experience in banking and gaming and started to look at how this really impacts businesses. And I worked a lot in real-time banking for the Reserve Bank and a number of other projects where we could apply AI to, and then became chief scientist for Deloitte Australia, had the breadth and the depth of actually applying AI to a whole range of industries from medical, military, government, banks, insurers, etc. So there was quite a lot of experience in those industries and various industries, which then led me to actually leaving Deloitte and building out Brew AI. And that was an interesting time. I remember the time when I decided to leave Deloitte is when the whole generative AI piece started to explode from a mathematical sense. So there's a lot of research papers out. And then obviously OpenAI came out during that time. And I left Deloitte and decided that I want to drive and build out Brew AI. And I did want to take a different approach to it. I wanted to provide private generative AI models than open models because protecting company privacy and IP is most important. And I thought therein was an opportunity for me to focus on that and provide really quality outputs for businesses that could use AI at scale.
Yeah, so you've been involved essentially in the how AI has reverberated through all these industries since the beginning.
Mhm.
And this is still very early for AI. I think pretty much everyone's on the same page that the AI party's only at 10 p.m. It'll probably go to 4 a.m., so to
Yeah.
speak. So we're still largely at the beginning here. But there's still a lot of noise in AI at the same time too. So like with the privacy element, like what is Brew AI solving with privacy that others are missing or perhaps overlooking?
We took this approach around privacy quite seriously when we started to look at how data was stored. And we started to look at what are some of the nuances with open models today, by sharing data with these really large models that can power a whole range of capabilities. And we looked at it and we said, okay, how do we protect company data? So if you upload your data to these large providers, you're not sure where the data is being stored and how it's training the model. So we wanted to solve that problem. So we've created private Gen AI models to store customer IP and information in a very secure manner with an audit trail. So I think that was the first step. The next step was, okay, how do we optimize these private Gen AI models and what type of hardware we need? Because we're building our own now. So we had to move away from the traditional vendors. We're not launching it on AWS cloud or any of those providers. We were building our own secure hardware and software models. So we started building these hardware boxes. We partnered up with NVIDIA to utilize their GPUs, and we optimized these private models. So we've solved the hardware and the software. And then we went on to the next stage was, okay, what are the fundamental problems you have today? Gen AI makes up info, makes up information. I think it was the famous Michael Cohen, the former Trump lawyer, who actually used Gen AI to craft a case, and the generative AI produced a perfectly good case that was all fictitious, which he submitted to the judge, which he needed to retract. We needed to solve that problem, and we could not let the AI do that. So we embarked on a research and development program, and we very mathematically solved this problem where we reduced hallucinations quite significantly. And then we embedded that technology in the box. So we started our journey through those stages all the way up to building out now on reasoning models that we can launch to the globe.
Yeah, and there's a lot of industries where you cannot afford to have those hallucinations. And I'm very familiar with
Right.
them too. I would try to ask it to cite sources. It would invent fake sources and cite them.
Hmm.
Very unfortunate. And the privacy, as you mentioned, is also absolutely humongous. I had heard a case of there being two lawyers, both using OpenAI, using ChatGPT for a case, and their information was both going into the system and they could pull it out from each other, so to speak. But one of the things you guys are doing at Brew AI is your team is something to be mentioned here too. So like what kind of
Hmm.
culture are you trying to build at Brew AI to keep innovation alive and while focusing on the trust and data integrity?
So, Michael, one of the key roles I had previously, I was also an adjunct professor at the University of Technology in Sydney in the Department of Engineering. And for me, AI research was very precious and a massive interest of mine. So, to carry on that culture, a large part of our workforce are PhDs who are in machine learning or in artificial intelligence will come on board and software engineering and mathematics who come on board and research these models at scale. So we look deep into the neural nets. One of our global papers we've published looks at how AI or generative AI researches information from databases and produces that information to the user. So mathematically, using subject, object, and relation, we can control how accurate that generative AI model can produce information to the end user without hallucinating. And this culture we have is derived from that, research, from the software engineering aspect. And we always encourage research and development. We always encourage new concepts, new capabilities, and new ideas in the business. And we want to keep that entrepreneurial culture, but also that scientific culture that enables everyone to thrive in the business. And I think what's really important here is for us is we want to create a culture to make everyone feel comfortable and enjoy what they're actually doing every day. The R&D, the research, producing new models, new ideas, and being excited in what they're doing.
Wonderful. Yeah, you want to keep the entrepreneurial spirit alive, but also the scientific integrity. And you also probably
Mhm.
want your team not hallucinating as well, the same as the head.
Absolutely.
So then, without getting too deep into like the specific use cases yet, which industries do you think are showing the strongest demand for Brew AI right now?
I mean, right now we see it in multiple areas. We've worked in mining, we've worked in various sectors, but we're seeing legal is becoming one of our strongest. For example, case law summarization, case law searching is becoming a very, very strong contender. And the other is finance, analyzing balance sheets, producing reports. So having the ability to analyze balance sheets and financial reports at scale is becoming another very strong contender at the moment.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for coming on, Gavin. I really appreciate this time. We're going to dive deeper into this, everybody, dive deeper into things behind Brew AI in the next video. But Gavin, do you have any closing remarks for people before we leave today?
What I like to articulate at Brew AI is, we develop private Gen AI models to produce accurate results for our businesses. But what most important here is that we are dwelling deeper into the architecture to improve reasoning, to improve the capabilities of private generative AI models, so that everyday users can use it through a chat interface and it's really easy to use. By this, we're solving a number of business problems. Okay, we're making humans more intelligent, so that they could utilize our tools to do their jobs quicker and faster and more efficiently.
Wonderful. Well, Gavin, I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions, please forward them to KCC Capital Partners and have a wonderful day, Gavin. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You have a lovely day as well.